Well, the spring just around the corner. I know a lot of us are starting to get together all of our embellishments to create some wonderful spring cards. And part of those embellishments are creating flowers. Many of us love to create our own flowers using punches or dies like this one I have here. And they're 3-layer ones. But today I wanted to show you how to spruce up these flowers just a little bit using some of our distress glaze from the Tim Holtz Ranger collection. Now this is the embossing glaze, which has the translucent result after you add it to your cardstock. And I want to show you how you can add these to your flowers to give it that nice sparkle and shine and make them look kind of patina as well. So I'm using a scrapbook.com embossing ink, but you can use any type of embossing ink at all. You just need something that will work with your embossing powders or your embossing glazes. And as you can see, I have my flower and I put it right into my ink pad, and then I got a tweezer and I just dipped it right into my embossing glaze. Now the reason I did this is because these are small enough where I don't have to necessarily pour it into my coffee filter, and then I'd have to pour it right back into the jar. So I was able to just take my flower and dip it right into the embossing glaze. Now once I had my embossing glaze onto my paper flower, then I went ahead and I got my heating tool and I heated it up. And one thing I noticed is that when I was heating this up, the embossing glaze does tend to move. So it kind of looks like stained glass. It was actually a pretty cool effect. So I went ahead and just proceeded to do my other 2 layers of my flower, dipping it right into my embossing clear ink pad and pushing it down to make sure I had some of the embossing ink onto my flower, and then dipping it right into my embossing glaze. Now what I found is it makes more sense to color all of your flowers into your embossing inks, or I should say your embossing glazes, all in a row before you actually start doing the second layer. And the reason for this is because after you heat it up, it could still be a little bit wet, and you want to make sure that your flower is completely dried with the embossing glaze before you add the second layer. Now the 2 colors that I'm using are Broken China, which is the turquoise color, and then the second color that I'm using is Rusty Hinge. And the combination of both of those together give it a really kind of a vintage rustic look, and I love the results that I get. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a moment. So now that I have all 3 of my flowers glazed with my Broken China, now I'm going to go ahead and re-dip it into my embossing ink pad to add some more embossing ink. Now this is where you want to make sure your glaze is completely dry, because if not, you're going to get it all over your embossing pad. So after I've added some more embossing ink, then I took that flower and I dipped just the corners of it. In some of the flowers I went all the way in, but for some of the flowers I just did the corners. And I'm just looking to add some of that rust, give it a more of a patina look. So this particular one here that I dipped all the way is the bottom one, but as you can see, when I start to dry it, it is going to move that rusty hinge to be able to bring out some of the turquoise. And the combination of these 2 glazes is awesome. It really gives you a nice patina look with that shine because of the glaze. And I'm going to do it with all 3 of the flowers. Now, while I'm using the combination of the Broken China and the Rusty Hinge, there's definitely some more combinations that you could probably use with this technique. And what I would recommend is just try to just experiment with some of the colors to see which ones look really well. I have a feeling a lot of them are going to look really good together because, again, you're going with the layers and it gives you that translucent look on your flowers with still getting that nice glaze and color. Now this is a very easy technique, but it is going to take some patience because remember, you're going to have to dip each flower into your embossing ink, and then you're going to have to dip them into your embossing glaze and then heat them and then let them dry and then repeat with the second color. So it is going to take a little bit of time. And what I would recommend is die cut all of your flowers, sort them by size, and then just go to town by getting your embossing ink on the flowers, dipping and drying. and then rinse and repeat. And then you can get all of your flowers done all at the same time, and then you can just assemble them. So once I had all 6 of my petals dipped into the embossing glaze, then I was ready to go ahead and put my flowers together. Now this little tool here that I have is specifically for shaping your flowers, but I think if you have some sort of a foam and some sort of a tool where you can push the flowers right in the middle, that would do the same results. Really what you're trying to do is get that middle portion pushed down so that way the petals kind of rise up. And then you're still going to need to do some primping once you have your flowers onto your card to be able to separate the petals and make it really look like a flower. So the first process of this was to go ahead and add the glue in the center, and then take my second layer and add it to my my petals, and then I'll do the same thing with my third layer. And then I'm going to put it aside to dry because I want to make sure my flowers are nice and dry before I start primping them. Now while I'm using these embossing glazes on flowers, I think this technique can be used with several other of your dies that you may have in your stash. I'm definitely going to try this combination with some of my steampunk cogs to be able to get the nice patina look and make them look a little bit rusty. And this is a nice task to get accomplished if you don't necessarily have a card in mind, but you know that you are going to be needing some flowers for some of those spring cards. And as you can see, the finished result is pretty awesome. So I had already put one of my flowers onto my card, and now I'm going to go ahead and add the 2 other flowers. Now I did add some leaf vines to the card already, and I'll share with you when I actually put this card together in another video. But I wanted to go ahead and first do this video to show you how to put these flowers together. So then I took my flowers and I glued them directly onto my vines, which I already had on my card. And then I'm going to put it aside to dry. You definitely, like I said, want to make sure that your petals are dry before you put them on your card. And then make sure that your flowers are dry before you start primping them from your card. Because I knew that my flowers would take some time to dry, I went ahead and started primping just to show you what my process is. Essentially what I do is I have my flower in the middle, and then I hold it in the middle while I pull up the leaves to separate them. And you're going to be able to get a better result when your flowers are completely dried to your card, but I know you get the idea. And then once I had my flowers glued to my card, then I went ahead and take some of my little beads here and I glued those to the center. And that for the most part completed my flowers. And as you can see in just a minute here when I share the finished results, these flowers are just so beautiful. They are glossy, they shine, they have great patina color, and they are just a wonderful addition to any of your cards or any of your spring projects that you might want to create. So I hope you give these flowers a try. Pull out your embossing glazes that they may be put away and you haven't used them, and start adding them to some of your flowers. I know you're going to get some wonderful results, and you're going to be so happy with these beautiful patina flowers that you're going to end up with. So as always, I'll leave a list of all the products that I've used to create these beautiful flowers along with the links to the stores. And if you've enjoyed my process video, I would sure appreciate a thumbs up. Now, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and be watching for another video where I put together this actual card. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll see you again next time.